Hi Chris, how are you?
Good evening, Rod. Yes, I'm well. Here we are, episode 212, and it's the 13th of February. So I think it wasn't very long ago I was going, crumbs, I can't believe we're in February, and now we're halfway through.
Well, and it's Friday the 13th as well, and depending on which side of the Atlantic you live, it's either good luck to see, it's either good, no, it's always bad luck Friday the 13th. It's black cats are the things that are bad luck on one side of the Atlantic and good luck on the other.
Oh, okay, is that how that works? Is it? Right, okay. So yeah, Friday the 13th, and we're going to have another Friday the 13th next month, because when you have 28 days in March, in February, you end up with the same days and dates of the week in March. So that'll be interesting.
Well, that will be interesting. So that's something I look forward to. A double trouble Friday the 13th.
Double trouble. Weather update, still really soggy.
Yeah, less soggy here today, but gonna be soggier and colder again, according to the weather forecast. And considering I've got a big drive, we're recording slightly earlier than we usually would, to the frozen north beyond the wall for Game of Thrones fans. I've got a clear eye on the weather.
What's Game of Thrones?
I'm not dignifying it with an answer.
We do have a severe weather warning. My son said we might get like a centimetre of snow tomorrow or something.
I'll be interested to see it. I feel like the weather's been quite overblown recently. They're always they're sort of gun shy ever since they did they didn't report the big storm or whatever it was, 2001 or whatever that was. And now they're just like, severe weather, even if it's really not that bad.
And everybody's got apps now, haven't they? So
they certainly do. Shall we do a little follow-up?
Let's do the follow-up.
So first up, news from Framework. I obviously have, full disclosure, I have a Framework laptop. I've been very happy with it. It's a 13-inch one. Actually, mine is the same as the one in the screenshot with a sort of nice purpley bezel around the edge, which I'm a big fan of. And if you're really into that, you can swap them in and out. So you can have like matte black, clear, a whole bunch of other colors, tangerine. I don't know what the idea is, but I'm a fan. But that's not the story here. The story here is that Framework are upping their RAM prices every single month now.
I'm guessing, though, if you're a relatively small manufacturer like Framework, you've got to be, haven't you? You've got to be just hedging it. Hopefully they'll bring them back down again, assuming RAM goes the other way at some point. But I'd imagine they've got to do it. They're not an Apple that can absorb this. It does make you wonder how far in advance big companies like Apple or Dell are buying their equipment, or how much margin they've got built in so they can cushion some of this.
Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult. They say here themselves, in September, buying an 8GB stick of RAM with a Framework laptop 13 costs $40. Today it costs $130. A 96GB DDR5 kit, 96GB, of two 48GB sticks costs $1,340, up from $480. So it's really at the higher end of the market. That's just an insane price increase.
That is crazy, isn't it? I mean, I'm glad I'm not actually in the market to buy anything at the moment. This is good. I'm hoping it will come back down, but will it?
I know, but those Framework desktops are probably perfect for being able to run in data centers for LLMs, because they've got a lot of RAM, they've got fast AMD chips in them. They're in the same sort of sweet spot at the higher RAM as the sort of Mac Studios. So I understand why they'd be in demand at higher RAM for running large. I forget the technical term for it, but LLMs with a lot of quantities, when they have a lot of data within them for whatever parameter models that they've got.
Yeah, no, it's true. So, wow. But fair play to Framework. At least they're reacting to it and being, I'm dealing with it, because hopefully they won't go out of business, tick. But they've got to pass the cost on.
I mean, this is a problem, I think, with enthusiast stuff. And Marcus Brownlee did a little piece about this, about OnePlus, which are a mobile phone maker, spun out of Oppo and one of the other Chinese brands. And OnePlus came to popularity by appealing to enthusiasts. They had a stripped down OS, they had lots of hardware features that were built down to a cost, and they sort of really got a mind share. The problem of being an enthusiast brand is that as you go towards the mainstream, the normal part of the distribution curve, it's hard to jump and keep the enthusiast people on board, because they're going to move somewhere else as you become mainstream. And people in the mainstream don't look at smaller brands, they buy Apple or Samsung. So it's difficult. And Framework have the same sort of problem, where it's very much an enthusiast thing that you and I are both like, oh, isn't that cool? We can upgrade our laptops again. But the average person in the street isn't that bothered about that. They just want to buy a laptop and then buy another one in 4 years.
Yeah, it's true, isn't it? They do. And they haven't got that mindset of upgradability, and they probably haven't heard of framework. I know I've got a 14-year-old son who would love something like this because he'd love to change the bezels every other month, knowing him. And also, it's good pocket money, some of it, because some of the modules are pocket money sort of costings once you've bought the original device.
Well, I enjoyed. I had a trip to London myself a couple of weeks back, and the guy sat opposite me in the train went, "Is that a framework laptop?" And he was a big Mac user and was, "Oh, what's it like? What do you run on it? What's this? What's that?" He was super interested. So there is certainly a cachet amongst other Mac folk like us, which I think once upon a time would not have been a thing.
No, it's true. Macs are everywhere now. There was a time when you were the odd person for having a Mac. Now you're the odd person for having the framework.
It did give me that sort of thrill of, oh, somebody asked me about my laptop, which, let's face it, just doesn't happen anymore.
That's because everybody's got the same laptop now.
I did enjoy it. He had a 16-inch MacBook Pro.
Oh, that's a big old laptop to lug around, especially on the train.
It's a beast, and I'm there on my little 13-inch framework. Anyway, it was nice to be asked, and I showed him Fedora Linux that I was running on it, and his mind was blown.
Is this it now? You're going to go on a one-man rampage to get people to convert?
Hey, I converted everybody to Mac back in the day. Why can't I convert them to Linux now?
You did, mate. You were very good.
I was an evangelist. Moving on, speaking of evangelism, Apple has seen the light when it comes to subscriptions. One of the things they're getting once people subscribe to is their new Apple Creator Studio. It's what is it? It's not a lot per month. It's I don't know.
It's $12.99 a month.
$12.99,
and if you buy it for the year, I think you get 2 months free.
And an educational customer, I think, gets $2.99 a month for it. It's a really good deal if you're an educational customer. Well, for Final Cut Pro, Logic Pro, and Compressor and things like that. Less so for Keynote and Pages and things. And this is just a little bit of follow-up. And I think we did actually talk about this, about Steve Troughton-Smith, who's great at sort of testing these things. So he has made use of Keynote to create some slides, and he burned through the amount of tokens he had from ChatGPT in creating the slides pretty much in one presentation. Apple said in their sort of blurb that it would be good for 50 presentations, but just creating one presentation, he used up almost all of his tokens. And that's really bad.
It is bad. Obviously, he's playing with it, so you've got to take it a little bit with a pinch of salt, but you wouldn't expect him to burn through all of his credits in one one Keynote, sorry. A little bit worrying that if people are paying for this, you don't really want to see limit errors. And can you buy more tokens? How does all that work?
I mean, it's interesting because he contrasts it then with building apps using Xcode effectively, which he's been doing it's been amazing to watch him on Mastodon actually, as he redoes some of his apps to have Liquid Glass, to have Logic, to bring them up to current standards and all the rest of it. Doing that, he's only used 7% of his Codex usage limit. So building an app, he's using significantly less tokens from his LLM than building a presentation inside a Keynote.
It's odd, isn't it?
It's very odd. Last week I used Claude AI. I asked it to do me a template for a presentation style for sort of a couple of new ideas for work. I wanted just new colors. This was the theme I gave it. It thought about it for about 10 minutes and it gave me back a fairly decent, it wasn't as good as something a human would have done, but a good enough slide deck of templates for me to put my own content onto. It did have to think about it pretty hard though, so I guess to your point, it depends what you're asking it to do. Code is an easier problem for a chatbot. I shouldn't call them chatbots. For an LLM than this, but it's interesting sort of the difference, because if they're selling Creator Studio as a good way of having AI assist you do your job, and you burn through the limits in 2 presentations, that's not really good enough.
No, it's not. And some people may not realise they need credits and all this other stuff. They'll be like, why won't I click the button to stop working?
I was pretty grossed out when I fired up the new version of Keynote. It said at the bottom, get ChatGPT to summarise your slides. And I'm like, ugh, I don't want that.
Yeah, they are. They are like really pushing like the sales of the upsell and stuff.
Yeah, not good. Something else that's not good is, in my opinion, is Palantir, which, as we've talked about repeatedly on this show, do amazing things with data. They obviously have a contract with the United Kingdom military. They have a contract with the Department of Homeland Security in America for ICE and other agencies like that. And they also have a contract in the NHS. Except in the north of England, where the Northern Carolines have said, no thank you, we don't want Palantir inside of our code. And the BMA, which is the union of the British of doctors in the UK, the British Medical Association, has also said that in the view of the BMA, doctors working in the NHS can no longer provide the tacit endorsement that using a product implies, and must immediately take steps to explore refusing any non-direct care usage of Palantir's federated data platform. That's a reasonably big deal, I think.
Yeah, agreed. They were clearly voting with their feet here, aren't they? And very much do not want Palantir involved at all.
You got to worry about a company that's named after the spooky orbs from Lord of the Rings that let Sauron watch you from afar.
Oh, is that what they're named after?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So Saruman has the Palantir, yeah, the sort of orb thing that that Sauron's eye looks out of. That's not a great place to start, the evil eye looking at you.
Not. Maybe it was funny when they came up with it, but not in today's landscape.
Well, they very much embraced it, and they're a multi-billion-dollar company at this point. And Peter Thiel is very influential, the guy that runs it. So you can have it in your warships, but it looks at least like doctors are pushing back on its use within the NHS, and I'm kind of behind that.
Yeah, interesting. The BMA represents 200,000 doctors. That's a lot of people.
But you think how many every patient in the United Kingdom interacts with the NHS. Every person in the United Kingdom will interact with the NHS in some way, except in some very remote circumstances. What's the population of the UK? 78 million, something like that.
I don't know. I think you're the numbers guy.
I think it's around that sort of region. Scotland is 5.2 million. Wales is 3.2 million. So just the devolved nations, you're talking. I think Northern Ireland's 1.3, something like that. And then by far the biggest part of it is England. All of England, which is about 58 million people by itself, are making use of Palantir in hospital services in some way, except, like I say, that sort of thing within the Northern Care Alliance. So this is quite a big deal. And it's rare you see stories pushing back against Palantir.
Yeah, that's true. Normally it's some overarching deal and people have just got to suck it up and use it.
Yeah, I mean, they won 60 million in non-competitive pandemic contracts from the NHS, and then, a 330 million competitive tender to the FDP. NHS England, the world's largest healthcare provider, said would be core to clearing its pandemic backlog. Get on with it then, folks, and pick someone else. And, all the stuff about not choosing American companies, I'm sure there'd be a British company that'd be willing to help with this.
Yeah, 100%, especially in the current climate.
Yeah, absolutely. Should we do some news?
Let's do the news.
So, do you have any Amazon Ring doorbells or products like that?
Nope. I used to have a Ring doorbell. I got rid of it, and I've gone to one that uses HomeKit Secure Video, which nobody knows anything about. But you basically put that one in, and it just talks to HomeKit. It's all hosted on Apple stuff, and I don't have to do anything. Well,
Ring had a partnership with a group called Flock Safety, who apparently would sell data on or have a partnership with police forces, particularly in the United States. I'm sure I heard something about a trial about this in Southampton as well, where that they would use footage from Ring doorbells to look for criminals or people of interest inside a particular area. And apparently they advertised this during the Super Bowl as well as one of their technologies. Yeah, that's probably quite creepy for most people to find out that the doorbell cameras could be used by the law enforcement.
Yeah, I think, to be fair, there's been a lot of people have these doorbells, but there has been quite a bit of pushback, I think, on Ring as a brand, just from their whole privacy piece. Partly why I went for this secure cloud malarkey. I didn't want another subscription as well. So, yeah, I'm not surprised, I think. I mean, they're saying that it's going to take more resource than they thought it would. That's why they're cancelling it. But that feels like a get out of...
Well, yeah.
Get out excuse.
It's a get out of jail free. So their partnership is cancelled. It was meant to happen. Well, it started in October 2025, but immediately after this Super Bowl commercial, the pushback seems to have started. You get a lot of eyeballs on commercials during the Super Bowl. I'm not surprised this has come about. And let's face it, I think there is an unease in America at the moment about their relationship with some law enforcement.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. So I wonder what made them do this Super Bowl commercial. Probably didn't read the room and have spent a load of money.
Shame.
Yeah. Well, the doorbells, though, is a thing, isn't it? How many people have got these doorbells and are covertly spying on their neighbours and people that walk past? I don't know. I don't think I like it.
I think using it for your own uses, for the protection of your property, is perfectly legitimate.
Yep.
Putting them together into a cluster to track people of whatever, or they're criminals, or they're the wrong skin colour, or whatever else they decide is a problem for people in the neighbourhood, but could become a serious invasion and invasion of privacy and extremely problematic. So good that this is going away.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. I don't like the concept that people just have them record in the street. I mean, it's easy for me to say I've got a front garden, but I only have it record if you come onto our property off the pavement, whereas you could just leave it recording everything that happens in your road all day, and I don't think that's healthy.
I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? You can understand that if you're waiting for a package to come from, provider A, you want to see who pinched it off your doormat. You know?
And you want to say maybe to the delivery driver, please can you leave it on my doorstep? That's often what I have to do. So it's a tricky one.
Or if your car is outside of it, then maybe it's got a view of your car and you can see somebody keying your car. So it's a difficult argument, but what I don't like is it being part of the surveillance state, covertly or overtly being part of the surveillance state. And I think you can understand why law enforcement want this, but as with backdoors in software, it only takes a couple of abuses to this and you have an extremely effective surveillance network for all your citizens that they themselves are paying for.
Yep, completely agree.
So, on that note, I think we'll move on to another story and talk about the dangers of AI slightly. This is a slightly odd story that was featured in the Register yesterday, actually. The maintainer of Matplotlib, which is a Python library for doing graphs and things like that, I wouldn't say I use it every day, but I'd say, several times a week I invoke the Matplotlib library in Python to draw myself a nice graph. It's a good bit of software. Anyway, an AI submitted a change revision to GitHub, checked in a change revision, which the maintainer of Matplotlib rejected, and possibly the bot that put in the change request wrote a blog post slagging off the maintainer of this.
Right, okay. Wow. Is this an agent going wild?
Yeah, it put in its change request. The guy rejected it. The agent, and this is where it gets a bit fuzzy, might have been the agent, might be the people that wrote the agent, wrote a blog post having a go at Scott Shamba, who is this maintainer of Matplotlib. Skynet!
Yeah, it's a bit, isn't it? But this is the problem, though, and you've run into this a lot now. What's human created, what's not human created, and some things we don't care about and some things we do, and you just don't know sometimes.
Yeah, it is interesting. We talked about OpenClaw a couple of weeks back, about it being the new hot thing that could integrate with WhatsApp and Telegram and your Apple Messages or whatever you've got, and was a massive security risk. This agent appears to have been built using OpenClaw. So I got to think OpenClaw is not a great name. For not a great product.
I don't like the name, and I definitely want something sticking its claws into my messages and all of that. I'm just not comfortable with that.
But if this was written by the bot, this is the snake eating that's telling me, do you want Skynet? This is how you get Skynet. It's kind of how I feel about it.
I kind of feel I need to rewatch Terminator as well.
Have you not rewatched it recently? It's a great film.
Not for a long time.
You should do one, then two, one after the other. They work well together.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Fair enough. Do you want to tell us about Tim Cook and the FTC?
Tim Cook and the FTC, yes, I can do. So apparently there's a warning is from the FTC to Tim Cook because of Apple News. So in a letter to Apple CEO seen by the FT, so it's obviously been leaked to the Financial Times. They do seem to every now and again get some juicy stuff because you don't think of the FT as being a leaker. Anyway, what have they been told? Apple has promoted leftist outlets apparently in its choice. So has it got like weighting on while it's pushing up? And a lot of people do use Apple News because obviously it's on billions of devices and it sometimes does an okay job if you tell it what you're into and what you're not. But apparently they're worried that Apple are pushing it too far to the left. It's quite interesting if that is the case.
I mean, this is a fairly standard quote by a lot of the right-wing media, though. All we ever see is left-wing stuff. And I presume if you go looking for GB News or Fox News or whatever the equivalent is that people are looking for, it's in there somewhere. I don't know. Does it already know my profile and shows me what, presumably whatever's in Apple News is whoever Apple has struck deals with? I don't think it's any more, right-wing, left-wing than that. Certainly I see The Sun, which I view as a slightly right-wing paper, the Times and the Financial Times, which are slightly right-wing, and the Telegraph, as within the UK, I'd say all of those were right-wing news. Yes, the Guardian's in there as well, which is left-wing, but I'd say there's a majority of right-leaning stuff for the UK side of the Apple News anyway.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to tell with Apple News because obviously you customize it to a point of what you follow, what you don't follow. Mine's largely car based. I don't use it very often. Occasionally I just dip in to see what's going on for cars coming out, and occasionally a few tech magazines. So I think it's quite a hard thing to measure this because it should be a different experience whether you log in or I'm logging in based upon our preferences. So I don't know quite how they've measured this one.
I mean, I didn't like how they did it. I don't know if you've ever tried to block a news provider in Apple News. It still shows you that there's content there with like a grayed out a little bit.
I don't want to see that. Just get rid of it. I don't think they handle it in a very good way.
I think the least of its problems is its left-wing or right-wing bias. I think it's just a crappy app.
Yeah, it's not. I have largely stopped using it, I must confess.
I'm not using it at all today.
Yeah, fair.
Um, Somebody else that's not using things is Gallup. Gallup are well known for doing polls of things, what are opinion polls, particularly of presidents and things like that. Anyway, for the first time in 88 years, Gallup will not measure presidential approval. And this is because Donald Trump doesn't like the fact that a poll says he's not very popular.
I'm sorry. Sorry, what? They've done this for 88 years and and now they're going to stop. Surely, if you're not very popular, you need to hear that so that you can work on it.
Yeah, I mean, there is, the emperor wears no clothes syndrome here. I think that somebody might say that he's not popular, and for it's amazing to me how a certain section of the population has been accused of being thin-skinned and not being able to take a joke. Surely this is that exact thing. That if you're confident in your abilities and you're doing the right thing, then your low approval rating will go back up when you fix the problem, and that's just part of it. You need to get a feeling on the pulse of what the public thinks of you, and you're stopping a storied, quite well regarded polling organisation from doing one of the things they've done for 88 years. That just it speaks volumes to me.
No, it's crazy, isn't it? I'm really. Yeah, I'm surprised, but not surprised, I guess.
No, we've got to the point where very little surprises us, I think.
Fair.
Something that surprises me, and in a good way, is how little the UK government is not spending on X. So I thought, as with all things, that probably UK.gov would spend a certain amount on advertising, whatever it would be within X. That's just the cost of doing business these days. However, most government departments don't seem to have, with only the Department of Education spending only £27,000. So I think this is great.
I think it's good, but why are we spending even £27,000? There's better places to spend that money than on anything to do with X. But no, it is way lower than I thought, because if you think of all the people employed in these various governmental departments, it'd be easy to rack up a number just with various subscriptions or advertising or campaigns. So this is way better than I thought it was going to be.
I wonder if they're still spending a minimal amount just because Elon Musk tried to sue Apple for stopping advertising on the platform, if you recall. Remember when the whole right-wing accusation of supporting Nazis thing dropped and loads of advertisers pulled out and he said he was going to sue them?
Yeah, you may be, but I mean, they're spending so little. It's nothing really in the scheme of things, is it?
I'm with you, though. £1 is too many pounds.
Agreed.
Somebody that's not afraid of spending pounds is Apple. And after we talked about their big acquisition of the Israeli AI company, it was only last week, maybe the week before, they're still on a bit of an acquisition spree, and they've bought a company called Kuzu, which is a graph-based database company. So they're all a bit mysterious. There's not a lot about them online from this 9 to 5 Mac article. But yeah, they're off the go. They've bought another database app.
But Apple are buying stuff all the time, aren't they? Lots of little things. And a lot of them, they don't keep their identity. They just get folded into Apple. So I'm not surprised by this, but it'd be interesting to see what they're going to do with it, and will we see it when it comes?
I mean, as pointed out in this article, it was large enough to trigger the European Union to add it to his list of acquisitions. So it's not nothing.
But companies probably don't have to do a huge amount to get to that sort of scale these days, because companies are largely overvalued, are they not?
I mean, what is also interesting is the web page in the EU's website, which they've discovered here, shows the things that, as you say, they've sort of been buying for a while. So Kuzu, October 19th, Styra, I didn't know they'd bought that. Software for cloud-native environments. Mask Design, physical layout and design services for analog integrated circuits. That makes sense. Pixelmator we knew about. True Meeting on January 24th. Y Labs, which develops and operates tools to monitor and analyze machine learning models. Feels like they missed the boat with that one. And then January the 3rd, Pointable, enterprise-grade natural language retrieval systems. So they have been sort of gradually going, but all of these things are on a web page on the EU's website. So they're large enough.
Yeah, I guess they're large enough. And are they buying things for the product, for the talent, the people? You know, it's probably a little bit of both. And then obviously they're largely going to fold it in, but they've purchased quite a few there.
Yeah, they certainly have. That's it for the news, unless I missed something, Chris.
What is mad though is it's a year since they bought Pixelmator. So it took them a year to get Pixelmator rebranded and back out the door.
Well, they were holding it back for their lovely subscription, which, are you paying for the subscription?
No, I've got Pixelmator Pro on my Mac and I use that. I'd like to have it on my iPad, but I just don't use it enough. I dip in every now and again. So I'm not yet, but I probably will get it every now and again, but I'd probably just buy it a month at a time because I don't need it all the time.
At least you have that option now. I mean, I'm still using Logic to edit the podcast. I do need to investigate other things. But given the technical difficulties we've had the last few weeks, I've gone the path to least resistance. Otherwise, I'd never get to bed.
Yeah, now's not the time to change that, is it?
Absolutely not. Because so far, fingers crossed, touch some wood, and it's so good this week. But yeah, moving on. Should we do car corner?
Car corner.
Well, you can tell us about Johnny Ive and Ferrari.
So Johnny Ive and Mark Newson from their Love From company have partnershiped with Ferrari to design their first ever EV, the Ferrari Luce. I think it's called Luce. I'm assuming that's how you pronounce it. Luce? Yeah, maybe. My pronunciation's never good. And you know what? They've released a shot of what the interior is going to look like. And it does look a little, I'm going to say, Apple-esque. It's clearly from Mark Newson and Johnny Ive, but I think it looks fantastic. I'd love to sit in and I'd love to sit in a Ferrari anyway, but I'd love to actually try it out in real life. But I think they've taken some of the Ferrari aesthetic and they've done a really good job of it. A bit retro in places with you've got nice switches in there. You've got a place where you slot the key and to make it go. It's an automatic. I think it looks fantastic, and I'd love to see more of this because it does feel like interior design, especially Ferrari's always been a bit mixed, the interiors, but the more recent ones, very plasticky and, in certain places, whereas this actually looks really thoughtful and considered. And I think car interior design's hard, right? A lot of places just slap a screen on it and it doesn't feel like they've thought it through. But this looks really exciting, and it'd be good for more car companies to have a bit more of a light on this. I think it looks cool. Yeah, really cool.
I'm happy to see some buttons. I mean, I'm going to come to this over here in a minute, but looking at the steering wheel, this looks very what I know of Formula One. Lots of little buttons and things as you would have in a Formula One car built inside of the steering wheel.
Yeah, it's quite common. I can't really see many stalks, and you've got the indicator buttons there. I'm not sure about indicators on a button.
I'm sorry, but this is really stupid. Putting indicators inside of, unless it's the gear up, gear down, in which case the arrows are wrong. This is really
no,
stupid.
They've got flappy paddles on the back for that.
Sure, but it's an EV, so why do you need them at all? But my problem with this is when you've got one turn of the wheel and you're trying to cancel the indicator, you're going to activate the other indicator. Dumb.
And you've got 30 years of muscle memory or whatever it is.
Yeah, dumb. And when Tesla tried this, they stacked the indicators on the left-hand side of the steering wheel, one above the other, and it was dumb then. But these are people who are meant to be more considerate about design. Why would you do this? I don't understand.
I just think the whole thing looks cool. I want to try it.
That's not cool. Put an indicator stalk on the back.
Yeah, that's probably the one bit of the design where I'm a little unsure.
So that's rubbish. I don't mind the steering wheel. I mean, I'm not sure about all this stuff in the middle. And it's a Ferrari, so fair enough.
But it's trying to be like a vintage steering wheel, a modern take on a vintage steering wheel, isn't it? That's what they're going for there.
Fine. The binnacle behind that's got your speedo in there. I don't know. It's not going to have a rev counter. Charge?
Yeah, I don't know. And it's got a G-force meter.
Cool, it's a Ferrari. So that's okay. And this is virtual, so it's digital, so they'll be able to put whatever you want in there instead. But Ferrari have done the same as everybody else, just slapped an iPad on the right-hand side of it here. So,
even more of an iPad. It looks like you can angle it, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it is on some sort of swing arm type thing. But is that so your passenger can look at it?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it looks cool. I'm sorry, I like it.
I have a couple of real issues with this. For a driver-focused car, I mean, maybe you don't indicate in a Ferrari. You just got to get everybody gets out of your way.
You just go for it.
But I kind of get that it's a bit classic, but I don't think it's the next great thing in car interiors. As somebody who's been looking at a lot of cars recently, you don't need to go back very far to where you had proper functional controls that that work the car properly. And of course, I'm very keen on a digital screen here and there. I went too far in my last two cars, you could say, with the Volvo and the Tesla. So I think there's more elements of what I think cars need in this, but I still think there's serious issues with it.
I just think it looks cool.
Yeah, but will it work, Chris?
I doubt I will ever find out because I'm not going to be buying a Ferrari ever. So I just think it looks cool. I'm glad they've done a modern interior with some classic styling that looks very clean, very considered. I would like to see it in real life. And hopefully we'll get some reviews at some point, won't we?
We will. Something else for motor manufacturers, Apple have gone this way as well with their pentalobe screws on iPhones. BMW have apparently released screws in the shape of the BMW logo, which will require a special bit to unscrew. This is bloody stupid.
I kind of think this is dumb because it's not going to take long for people just to buy the tool and then do what they need. It just, and there'll be loads of third-party tools. So it's just a bit of an odd one because I don't think you're really achieving anything by doing this.
You're making mechanics who service BMWs buy additional tools, is what you're doing. Yeah,
basically. I don't think it really solves the problem. It's just an annoyance.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. It just, what are BMW playing at? They're making some really quite questionable decisions, I gotta think.
I'm quite liking some of the new BMW design language, so hopefully they'll get out of questionable decisions and back onto making quality cars.
Well, they couldn't make more ugly cars at the moment, so maybe they're going for ugly bolts as well.
Ugly bolts. I think the cars will turn with the new design they're going to do.
You take a brand like Jaguar, where the car comes out and you go, "Ooh, I don't like the look of that very much," like the new F-Type or previous XJs or cars like that. And very quickly, I think a Jaguar becomes quite a classic-looking vehicle. Maybe not with the very latest one that was still in prototype. BMW don't have this problem. BMW, the last 2 generations were questionable. This generation is vile. The i8 is one of the ugliest things on the road. The iX is fairly ugly. The i3 is pretty ugly. They're fairly disgusting looking cars. I hope there's a generation coming where they're better, but I don't see it yet. And like I say, maybe it's not just skin deep, the ugliness. They've got these bolts too, so maybe I've gone on too much about
that. I think I like some of the more recent Beamers, but I don't disagree. They're not. There's a lot of them that aren't beautiful.
Absolutely not. In fact, I think a lot of the Chinese brands make more handsome looking cars than BMW.
Yeah, I think the problem is with some of them, they haven't got a lot of character, have they? That's the problem I'm seeing.
Neither do BMW.
Don't be mean. I like my BMWs.
I know. And if you go back like an E38 3 Series or something like that, or the 5 Series with the rounded headlights that look like eyes.
Yeah, I know the one.
So they were truly beautiful cars. The original M1, many of the M3s. I think there's been a lot of very attractive BMWs. The whole current generation and the generation before that have not been attractive. I feel they've lost their way. As long as it comes back, great, but they've lost their way.
Agreed.
Should we do some media?
Go on then, let's do some media.
So let's keep talking about cars and you can tell us about the sequel to the F1 movie.
Apparently, there is confirmation that there is something happening with the F1 sequel. They're saying it's in the works, but you hear a lot about movies being in the works for donkey's years, don't you? So that's why I'm just being a bit sceptical on it. So apparently it's in the works. Jerry Bruckheimer, the producer, has said, so it'll be interesting to see whether it comes to anything. I enjoyed the first movie. Do I want them to do another? Yes and no. I don't know. Is it just going to be Top Gun in their car again with a different camera? I don't know. I'd be curious to see what they do to actually make a good second movie.
I gave my review 2 weeks ago, I think. It's a 51%. It was all right. It wasn't a great movie. It was all right.
I'd probably give it a 60%, maybe 65 at a push.
Okay. So, I think you like it because it's Formula One as much as, and you were there at some of the racetracks while they were filming it.
Yeah, I was there and I know all the drivers and it was just some of the way they used some of the additional characters.
It was very cliched and I like Brad Pitt and I liked a lot of the actors in it. So I probably had more goodwill towards the fact that, there was that. And I did have good high hopes for the director because he also did Top Gun Maverick, didn't he? And
he did.
Which is and it's just Star Wars, but it's a good film. This just was predictable. I'd like a little more thoughtfulness in my story for these things, I think. Not just entirely reliant on some cool shots, which was really the problem with this. So that was that. I have continued my Bond marathon, finishing off the Pierce Brosnan era of Bond with Die Another Day, starring Halle Berry, and I'd forgotten Rosamund Pike.
I'd forgotten Halle Berry was in it, and Rosamund Pike. Jeez, I'd forgotten about all of that.
Yeah, this is the one where the man gets diamonds stuck to his face. There's an explosion at the start. Hang on, I'm going to back up. The start sequence is not bad. He surfs into a beach on Korea, hides a surfboard on the beach, hijacks a helicopter and pretends to be an arm dealer. And I'm okay with all that. I was okay. I was even okay with the briefcase exploding and the diamonds going into the guy's face. There's quite a cool chase and hovercrafts back across. The second the title sequence starts, it goes downhill. like not just a little bit downhill, but all the way downhill. That there's Bond being tortured in the back of the title sequence, which I'd forgotten about. So you've got probably the worst song in Bond history by Madonna, which
I've forgotten about that one.
Feels like it's missing most of the lyrics. And then the film just degenerates from there. And when you get to the invisible car, which actually I didn't mind as much when I watched it again, but these films, GoldenEye was a high point, and they've just steadily ticked down until you get to Die Another Day, which is dreadful. And I'm not, I want to be really clear, having a go at Pierce Brosnan's Bond. I think he was perfectly fine as Bond. In some ways, as good as Roger Moore and others. I just think he had scripts that were dreck and action sequences that took over the whole plotting of the thing. Halle Berry was fine. Rosamund Pike was fine. They're just all wasted in a film that just didn't really go anywhere. And I think the critics were very generous to this. And did you know this movie was entirely paid for with product placement? So
wow, I did not know that.
Whatever the budget was, 138 million or whatever it is to make it, the advertisers paid for the whole thing.
I'm not surprised. So we got 51% by the critics, 41% by the audience. I think 56 is generous too.
Yeah, it's not a good film. And bye Pierce Brosnan and Daniel Craig.
Yeah, you've got a good era coming up now.
It starts well and then it goes rapidly downhill with Quantum of Solace, right?
Yeah, memory serves. Quantum of Solace was very short, but there are people that like it.
No, there's not.
And then I must confess, the last three kind of blur into one to me. I can never remember which one's which.
Nobody liked Quantum of Solace.
Some podcasts beg to differ.
They are wrong. You're going to tell us about the holdovers.
Oh, the holdovers, yes. So I've actually watched a whole movie. Imagine that. So I've watched the holdovers. I don't know why I watched the holdovers. I thought it was quite a recent film, but this is 23. This is basically about private school. Everybody's going home for Christmas, apart from like 5 students who stay with the teacher and the cook. And then 4 of those kids, ballpark, end up going on a little holiday with one of the rich kids, gets picked up in a helicopter, and so they all go off with him, and it's just one kid, one teacher, one cook, and it's just meant to be like a heartwarming story. It's scored incredibly high, but it's very slow going. It's beautiful, very beautiful, good performances, but it's just a very slow going film where the professor ends up finding himself, all very predictable. It was okay. I would possibly watch it again, but just not fantastic. That's my problem with it. It's just not fantastic.
I mean, you've attached my interest because it's Paul Giamatti, who I like an awful lot. I talked about him in the Star Trek show that I was watching as a bad guy who's clearly...
He's very good.
He's a very good actor. Good critics, 92% audience. But you say a bit slow.
A bit slow. I mean, very beautiful, like really nicely shot. You can't fault the director, who's Alexander Payne. I've not heard of him before. It's just not my kind of film, I think. Sorry, just too slow for me. And sometimes you end up with films too quick, don't you, these days? But just nothing really happened in it. It was a little bit too predictable.
No race cars, is that the problem?
I'm alright with that. I don't watch a lot of race car films, I must confess.
I'm joking.
But the director also directed Sideways, which is probably a very similar film to this.
Okay, that gives me a good idea of its pacing. I've seen Sideways. That's the one about the wine country, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
Not a bad film. Not as funny as it thinks it is, though.
Agreed, and I think The Holdovers is the same.
Oh, interesting. Okay. That is a very useful review, Chris. I'm going to give you a very bad one now about Sugar, which I haven't watched that much of. I started watching this last night, and then I had to rush off and do a meeting late at night. So I didn't get to finish the episode I was working on. I didn't come back to it. So I think I've got about 10 minutes to go with the first episode. This is on Apple TV+. It's Colin Farrell. I did see this when it came out. It's been out a couple of years now. I'm looking for a date here now. I can't actually see one as I sort of scroll around, but never mind. It was one of the maybe second generation wave of TV shows that came to Apple TV, something like that. It's been there for 3 or 4 years. And I kind of ignored it because it was in that sort of low point. It wasn't a Foundation. It wasn't a Ted Lasso. It wasn't one of the sort of real For All Mankind type things. But I thought I'd go back, as I had nothing better to do while I was just waiting for this meeting to start, and give it a chance. And it's quite compelling, and it's beautifully shot. It looks really good. And every so often I watch Colin Farrell, who I think was almost forgotten as an actor. If you think how long he's been around now, he was in Minority Report. He was sort of the next Tom Cruise in Minority Report. Been around a long time, done some quality stuff. He's excellent in this. Just a little snippet I've seen of him. Like, really, really excellent. So it's compelling enough. I'm going to go back and finish the first episode for sure, and I'll watch the next 2 or 3. But yeah, what a pretty thing it is, though.
I think I've watched like the first 10 minutes, and I don't know why I never circled back. I do think Colin Farrell's very good, actually. I really like him as an actor. But yeah, he kind of got very famous, had a few issues outside of work, and then has had quite a good second run more recently, sort of the last 10 years or so. So, no, I rate him a lot.
Yeah, have you seen the Batman?
No.
Where he plays the Penguin in the Batman, and you wouldn't recognise it as Colin Farrell.
I have seen a picture of him doing that role.
Yeah, that's a really useful search, Rotten Tomatoes. Thanks for that. Yeah, there we go. Games?
Go on then, games.
Very, very briefly, just it's a public service announcement more than anything else. We talked about Peter Molyneux, one of the fathers of computer gaming in the United Kingdom, certainly the 16-bit era. Not very popular these days, but definitely known for the God game. We said Masters of Albion was coming. If you're interested, there's now a trailer you can go and watch. I haven't watched it, but it's just real-time follow-up for the show that it dropped a couple of days ago. And if Masters of Albion, which is sort of a mashup of Goddess, Populous, Black and White, and other games from his past, might be worth a look.
He's clearly got a theme. I did watch the trailer. It's quite long, which is good in some ways, but I don't think this is a game for me. I just like building stuff. I don't want to do anything else, but it looked kind of cool. And
if you're into cool stuff, and this is just, if you've never played it, go and do it now. XCOM 2 is free this weekend, has a free weekend and a 95% discount. And it's one of the best games I've ever played in my life. I keep coming back to it every so often. It's real-time strategy. You've got a bit of base building, he said, trying to appeal to Chris in there. It's just an absolutely terrific game. And if you don't have it in your collection, go rush out and get it now.
I have played it nowhere near as much as you. I just have not a great brain for strategy turn-based games. That's, I think, my problem.
The nice thing about this is it's a lot gentler on you than its predecessor. So the original XCOM, which is from back in the 80s, was hardcore. You know, it took you many weeks to play a game. It was punishing. It looks quite pretty. B, the strategy is chunky enough that you don't need to dumb down at all. But I think it's very accessible as well, and I really like the way that it works. And the trick is name your soldiers after your friends, family, or enemies, and they all become a lot more personal to you. You really don't want them to die on a mission. You want them to build their skills up. You want them to have the cool new gun and take out the aliens. It's a really good game, XCOM 2, and it's genuine. If you haven't tried it, run, don't walk, and pick it up.
Yeah, it's aged well as well, hasn't it? I think, to be fair to it.
I think so. It'll play on pretty much anything at this point.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about it on the show, but last minute news. If you're an Apple Arcade subscriber, Civilization 7, you can now play it on your iPhone, should you desire.
I've got no desire to play that game on my iPhone. I'd like to play it. I don't think I've been fair to it. But part of me wishes I didn't buy it when it came out, and I should have just waited. But c'est la vie.
Yeah, there's a big patch coming where they're going to fundamentally change it again. I feel like it's the 7th or 8th patch we've talked about with it. But
yeah, it feels like they're always in a state of there's a big patch coming around the corner to make it good again.
Yeah, not great. Main show?
Go on then, main show.
So we don't have a lot in the main show because it's been a quiet news week. But
it's been a quiet year. We're 6 weeks in.
Yeah,
very quiet.
I mean, we get the feeling that Apple is holding its cards close to its chest before it dumps a whole load of stuff on us, right?
Yeah, potentially. They've got some product updates coming. There are the new series still coming, but we're going to talk about that. So, yeah, it's weird, isn't it? It feels like there's bits coming, but I don't know. It just feels quiet. Microsoft haven't really done a lot. We're waiting for Steam to announce all their pricing for their new hardware that's coming. Sony's not doing anything. Nintendo have dropped their console last year, so it's just a bit of a quiet. I think it's going to be a quiet year. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, maybe we'll have to go to podcasting every 2 weeks instead of every week if the news keeps going this slow. But so this week, I'm with you. I think it's being affected by the memory, and the drive towards LLMs and AI is absolutely impacting the rest of the market. Everybody's intention is there. There's no CPUs, there's no GPUs, there's no RAM, there's no hard drives, there's no SSDs, and this is becoming a problem, I think.
Yeah, and it's got to affect you launching new products of what price point do we launch that, and when do we review the price? Like Apple generally launch something and never change the price of it. See Cinema, what's it called? Pro Display XDR, for example, that came out in 2019 and costs the same today as it did then.
I mean, displays are probably the only thing that isn't being affected by all this.
I'm amazed the Studio displays because it's got a whole iOS inside it.
But it's pants. Right, let's talk about this then. So 26.3 dropped this week after 3 or 4 betas. We didn't talk about it because we don't tend to cover the betas unless there's something notable in them out of cycle. It's only during WWDC time that we sort of really get into our betas. But 26.3 has introduced some new things, including the major feature is making it easier to switch from iPhone and Android and back and forth. So import and export features it's a big notable thing. That's quite an interesting decision to make.
No, it is good, isn't it? Interoperability, and they've probably been forced to do a little bit of this, but it's an odd release. It feels a bit of a nothing release for an OS that changed quite a lot, and they've done the Android piece, which is good. Maybe I'll use it one day. Have you tried this out?
I haven't switched from one to the other, but I am rocking Android at the moment.
Okay. But would you use this switcher, or would you just use cloud syncing services?
I think if I'm ever starting a phone from scratch, I start a phone from scratch. That occasionally when I've gone up from iPhones, just because it's the path of least resistance. But I quite like to know what I'm installing on there. I don't want any cruft left behind. Let's face it, we all accrue apps that we forget to go back and delete or for whatever reason. So a lot of the time, I'm just happier to start from scratch.
I can see that.
The pain points are password managers, banking apps, that kind of stuff, which, as you and I talked about last week, we should probably be trying to reduce our usage of anyway.
Yeah, true. My phone is largely like a burner phone anyway, so I think I'm good on this. Most things are turned off. All notifications are largely off. So, I'm probably not doing too bad on this front.
So we've got a transfer from iOS to Android made more easily, and we've got enhancements to the weather and wallpaper gallery, and that's pretty much it.
Bunch of bug fixes. What we have got though, apparently on macOS, is it's now going to be easier to resize windows because they're meant to fix some bugs. It does feel a little better in that you're getting the right mouse pointer as you move it around the windows, but this should never have happened in the first place.
Yeah, it's not really good enough, is it?
But sometimes we need releases like this, don't we? Where they're just little releases that just fix bugs, and that's what we need.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, that leads us into the second part of our discussion, really, which is...
Oh, no, hang on. Before we go there, there is the one thing. If you've got the Apple CX modem in your iPad, there's a feature where it limits like exactly where you are. So it doesn't tell cellular carriers exactly where you are, like precise location. It just gives you a general location of you're in this area rather than you're right there. And so that's kind of cool from a privacy standpoint. They didn't have to do that.
No, I suppose not. It's there's not that many phones with that modem, though.
No, there isn't. It's the iPhone 17 Air and regular 17, not my beloved Pro, but you can also get in the iPad M5. And maybe Max this year, who knows?
We'll see. We will see. I mean, it's been a long-wanted thing. I suppose that is quite good, but considering most people go and install software that gives away their precise location anyway, I don't think that your carrier knowing exactly where you are is the end of the world.
But to me, it's just Apple doing what they should be doing. These little things that obviously keep your privacy. Nobody's asked for it, but they do it because it's the right thing. We want more of that from Apple.
Yeah, what they should be doing is not allowing governmental agencies to know exactly where you are, or run software, or not put child pornography generated by a chatbot on your phone. I mean,
agreed with you on all of that.
So yeah, one minor thing about your cell phone carrier, who knows about every call you make and everything else, not knowing exactly where you are. Whoopty.
Agreed, but I'd like to think if this was the sign of Apple getting back to what it should be doing, then that's a good sign.
All right, well, we'll see. Are you saying I'm being a bit negative about this, Chris?
It's not the most exciting feature, don't get me wrong, and it's not going to impact everybody's lives, but it's nice to see Apple do stuff like this from time to time.
Something that might impact everybody's life is Smarter Siri, which we've been promised due to an integration with Google's Gemini models and running their version of private cloud compute, was going to be prioritized, and we're all going to get it really, really soon. Possibly as soon as 26.4, I think they were originally saying was going to be there.
Yeah, which would be the next one, and I'd imagine that will come out in the next few weeks for beta and developers, but it feels like now this is getting pushed back slightly.
And I think that all you can say is quelle surprise, really, that a Siri being pushed back because it's not good enough. I'm stunned.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. I think I'd rather Apple take the time and get it right, because Siri, it just is rubbish and is a joke. Even my kids mock Siri. Everybody mocks Siri. So if they're ever going to get back from that, they need to just take the time and do it properly. But just tell people it's taken longer than we thought.
I do think Apple's communication, not only in their marketing, but overall, needs to improve. Once upon a time, they could have got away with being secretive and doing all the thing. I think they need to be a little more transparent these days, and putting out vague statements about what Tim Cook said at a town hall, or it's rumored to be delayed via Gurman or Gruber or someone like that, isn't really good enough. And being honest with your public and your millions, possibly billions of fans at this point, will start to get them back a little bit of goodwill.
They definitely need to do better comms when they've told people. If something's they haven't announced, fine. Comms it whenever you want. But when you've told them something's coming in the future at some point, they need to get better at that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's about it for these stories, isn't it? We want Siri to be better. Hopefully it will be. And maybe future releases will make things private again. And I'll lose my cynical eyebrow every time I look at an Apple release.
Maybe.
It doesn't seem likely, does it?
I don't think anything's going to change in the next 12 months.
No, I think
massively.
App of the week.
Go on then. What's your app of the week?
My app of the week this week is AutoTrader, which is an app for your phone. It's also a website here in the UK. This is where you can go to hunt for cars that you may or may not be interested in at any price point from any part of the country, with a certain degree of granularity as well, which is quite nice. So, as I bought a car this week, I've been all over AutoTrader recently, and I just really like the website. I like that I can very quickly find what I'm looking for. Should I have a desire to see how much an Aston Martin's going to cost me, I can do that too, and that's fun. It has official dealers, it has new cars, it has used cars. Works really well on your phone. It remembers your preferences. So if you say exclude all cars that haven't been written off or been involved in an accident to write them off, that will persist across your searches. It remembers your sort of price ranges and age ranges or mileage. It's just a really neat app.
I would give this a thumbs up from me too. I love AutoTrader. I want it all the time. I'm not buying anything. I just like looking at cars, and occasionally go in and just look at different makes and models. I think the website is generally really well done. It's really easy to use. The way you can filter, oh look, I want one with a gearbox, or I want to get one in this mileage band, or in this year band, or in this price band. I just think it's really well done, or I want to pick that model. They've done a great job of making all this data very easy to navigate, and it's generally fast. It looks great. So I completely agree with you. I think fair play, for a website that's been going a long time, they've done a really good job of it, and it's not full of ads. It's quite easy to use. There's lots of extras on there if you want it. Great job. Yep,
it's a good site. It's a good app. It's one of the stalwarts on my phone that when I'm bored for 5 minutes, I will just have what's available for in this money. That's quite interesting. And there you go. There's one Buick Skylark in the UK, whatever that is.
That's probably what Hammond had, I think, something like that, when he was on Top Gear that time.
Maybe. My second app is down for maintenance, it would seem. And that's why AutoTrader got promoted slightly. But this was something I found from a guy on Reddit who's written his own app. In the UK, we're very fortunate that our DVLA makes people publish the results of MOTs on the gov.uk website. So an MOT it's a car's fitness for driving, effectively. Once they're beyond 3 years old, they need an MOT every year to show their roadworthiness. Having bought an older car, I've been quite interested in how this is going. But this was a website that pulled from publicly available sources, would give you all your MOT history, but it would also use a bit of AI in the background to go, your car that you're looking, or this car that you're looking at is this old. Here's common faults. If you're seeing more of this kind of problem at MOTs frequently, you could have a particular lemon in this area, or this hasn't been done. It was just quite a well done site that sort of came together. So I hope it comes back up. But that's VETT, and the URL might work again. That's in the show notes. But failing that, AutoTrader's still great.
Yeah, no, agreed. And it is good. I think buying a car is a lot easier these days. It's a lot easier to, like you say, check the history and all of that. It's really good. It makes it a lot less scary when you're not quite sure what you're looking for.
Fair. Thing of the week.
Thing of the week. So a couple of weeks ago, I listened to James Corden and Ruth Jones's book, sorry, I was having a moment with her name, all about Gavin and Stacey. And then I saw this book on Audible, which is James Corden, May I Have Your Attention, Please? And it's a book he wrote in 2011, just as he was becoming a father. It's his autobiography up to that point. And he kind of went through how crazy his life got at certain points, being very famous. And I wonder if he had any idea that he was about to go on a few years later and move to America and do the chat show for circa 10 years. So just a good book. He narrates it, he wrote it. Just generally quite enjoyed it. Interesting just seeing a bit more about his life and around the Gavin and Stacey piece. So there you go.
Lots of people don't like James Gordon.
Why not? I don't know.
I think he was not quite at a Clarkson level of punching people, but I think he was quite rude to quite a number of people.
Okay, that doesn't surprise me. And he does say, certainly back in the late 2010s, he was not the nicest of people with his fame. He kind of went to his head a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I view him as a slightly annoying character. When he was at the height of his fame, there was a certain brashness to him that I didn't go well. I think in the Gavin and Stacey days he was good, and the Horn and Corden before that, because they were a comedy double act before that. They made one of the worst films of all time, Lesbian Vampire Killers.
He talks about that in the film. Basically, they did Lesbian Vampire Killers, Horn and Corden show, and he had something else, and all three things bombed all at once, and it was a rude awakening.
But I think it was the sort of US chat show era where it got to his head a little bit.
Yeah, I could quite believe it. I just enjoyed the book, and I was just curious a bit, really, about Gavin and Stacey and a bit more of that.
Fair enough. I think we can call that a show, Chris.
I think so. So if anyone wants to get in contact with us, Rod is at g5maniac@mastodon.scot. I'm on Mastodon too, and I'm at _CJP at mastodon.social. You can watch on YouTube by going to our website, wakefromsleep.com, and click on the YouTube link, or you can drop us an email, wakefromsleep@protonmail.com.
Talk to you next week, Chris.
Cheers, Rod.